So in this video I'm going to talk about passing data between classes. It was something I struggled with when I was first building Ruby programs, and I'm basically going to show you how we do this using a program I've already built that we are going to build together later and break down exactly what is going on in this program, and do this a little bit hand-holdy. But for now I just want to show you how we pass data between classes in this program. So first we have our directory, student grades, which contains 3 different Ruby files: averages, user input, and grades.rb. And because these all sit within the same directory, we can use them in between our program. So we can do that using some syntax called require relative, which in this case we have require relative averages.rb, which gives us access to this Ruby file, which contains a class of calculator and a method called average. So now that we have our folder structure set up, we can then take a look at this new object that we created called new input, which is an instance of our input class. And then we call on the method user input on that instance of new input. And what user input does is it accepts a bunch of different user input. In this case it's going to be a student and 3 different scores or test grades for that student. And it stores that in a hash with keys and values that are a student and their 3 different scores. Student being the key, the scores being an array of the 3 different scores. So after we have the user input and we have our new hash of students and scores, we are going to then create a new object called new calculation, and that is an instance of calculator, which the calculator class is in averages.rb. And we're able to create a new instance of calculator in our user input file because of this require relative syntax again up above. So now we have our new input hash after we run this, and it contains our attributes, our student names and their test grades. So then we have this object new calculation, and we call the method average. But average is accepting a parameter of object. So the way we pass that is by using these brackets and calling our new input object, and then passing our students and scores hash, which we are able to pass this as a method using our attribute accessor that we reviewed earlier. So what this is going to do is it's going to take the new calculation class, call the average method, pass in the object of new input, and then allow us to use students and scores, the students and scores attributes within that method. And that method, we can break down exactly what it's doing a little bit later, but it's just going to average the 3 test scores for a student. So that's how the data is passed to a new class. So let's see in action how that works. Let's go to our terminal. Let's clear this out. I was just doing a test run before. And we're in the student grades directory. Let's run ruby user input.rb. So it's going to read this when we run the program top to bottom. So it's going to go through all this, make sure it's all working okay, and then when we get down to new input.user input, it's going to start putting outputting all of these different statements to get our user input. And then it's going to go next, and it's going to create a new calculation object, and then it's going to average our scores in that order because Ruby programs read top to bottom. So user input.rb, enter a name. Let's see, Liz. Liz got 100 on her first test. She did very, very well. Then she got a 85 on the next one, and a 92 on the third one. Good job, Liz. And yeah, we're done with inputting our data, so this is going to exit our loop. And Liz has an average of 92. So you can see our program worked. We inputted all of our user data into this students and scores hash, and then by calling the average method on our new input, students and scores, we are able to get the average for Liz. And that's how you pass data between classes. There are other ways of doing this, but I just wanted to show you guys how one way of doing it, and hopefully that clears up some questions that you might have about that, or if you're trying to build Ruby programs right now, hopefully this set off a light bulb in your head and you're able to do this more effectively.